Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to episode 139 of NerdPod Generations. As always, I'm one of your illustrious hosts, Steve Taylor, along with the lovely Al Jetsam.
Hello, friends and enemies.
Hello, sir.
We're doing the Andy Samberg creep, the Lonely Island creep,
yes,
on episode 150. Do the creep.
The creep.
Just gonna do creeping up.
Very underrated because it's not at the level of Jack Sparrow or I'm on a boat, but it's still solid.
See, my favorite is still I Threw It on the Ground. That will still forever be my favorite
awesome.
Lonely Island song.
Yeah.
And video, because the video to go with it is also great.
It's pretty great.
Yeah.
It's pretty great. Now, I have a soft spot. Even though I love I'm on a Boat, I think that's my favorite song. I have a soft spot for Jack Sparrow just because of Michael Bolton being so freaking nuts.
It gets so crazy by the end, too.
Oh, it's insane. When he's dressing like Aaron Brockovich and everything. Oh, my God. It's killer.
It gets out of hand.
But anyway, folks, tangent one out of the way early. My name is Steve Taylor once again. This is NerdPod Generations episode 139, meaning that there are 138 previous episodes of pure, unadulterated gold. So please go back and listen to our back catalog on either Apple Podcasts or Spotify. If you're having a hard time finding us, go to nerdpodgen, nerdpodgen.com, and there are links to our Spotify. There's links to YouTube, which we do have a YouTube channel, which Al graciously puts up clips of our show.
Hey, what can I
say? And he's got a few of the past episodes, a lot of our DC.
We went through finally, and I put up all of the DC segments that we have done that are like full segments. I didn't do some of the lesser segments. Like I didn't put up my review of Batman and the Ninja Turtles, right? Because that was just me. I was the only one reviewing that. It wasn't like both of us in that segment. You reviewed it later, but the ones that are big, the ones that are important, they've gone up.
There's quite a few, so that was a Herculean effort.
I got 5 out of that. I got 5 juices out of that orange.
I was very impressed with that. So please, if you go to our website, and you go to Spotify, you go to YouTube, make sure you like and subscribe to our channels. And let us know what you think. There is a comment section on our webpage that takes you right to our email. So anything you say, we'll see it.
Yeah, let us know what you think, because honestly, that is that's going to be the moment for me. It's when someone reaches out and says, "Hey, you jackasses, why haven't you done blank?"
I would love that.
I would love it.
Because really, folks, we're at episode 139, and we haven't got a lot of feedback. We're going to keep going.
Oh, it's never going to end.
Unless somebody stops us, we're going to keep going, so you might as well let us talk about something you desperately want to hear about.
It depends on whether the heat death of the universe comes first or not, but as of right now,
we'll survive it.
Yeah.
I think
just throwing it out there, we're going to make it through.
All right, folks, we start every episode with what have we been watching, playing, reading. I figure I'll get it rolling because I got some meat.
Oh, really? Because
I got some meat on the bone.
Okay, yeah, you go ahead. I do have to just throw this out there because my ADD OCD is trying to drive me crazy.
What's that?
We were talking about Ryan Reynolds briefly before the show, and then we talked about Lonely Island.
Yeah.
And now all I can think is, you remember how Blake Lively was in the video for I Just Had Sex?
Yes!
My brain just keeps on putting that in. I was like,
so
listen,
weird.
You gotta stop.
That's so freaking weird. Okay, so I got a lot to talk about.
Yes, you do.
First thing I'm going to bring up, it's kind of brief. I've been trying to hit, it's very hard for me to play some video games at all because I have no time. Finally, I've gotten back on, there's a game that I've been wanting to play. It's been on my backlog. It's called Sea of Stars. For those of you who have not heard of it, it's an independent game. It's kind of in the vein of an old school Dragon Quest or a Final Fantasy.
Okay.
But it's not, it's in the realm of what the pixel art games used to look like, but it's not pixel art.
Okay.
It's a lot cleaner. And it's beautiful, and it's really inventive, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it.
Nice.
So, Sea of Stars, I'm playing it. I believe it's on every console. I'm playing it on Switch, of course, because a game like that, to me, just belongs handheld. So, to me, that's Sea of Stars. Quick little on that one. Moving on, MCU, Journey with My Son.
The GROAN. Segment
This
GROAN.
was an interesting one.
You gotta tell me, because I've seen Ant-Man and the Wasp once, and that was enough for me.
That's why.
Yeah.
I had only seen Ant-Man and the Wasp once, and I believe I fell asleep halfway through it.
I just got to the drumming ant at the end, and I was like, so this was a full waste of my time.
Yeah, it's like that's how you're going to
play
off the snap. Is all the world is collapsing, but the ant is playing
There's just
drums.
an ant drumming,
That was
and
dumb.
I hate it. And we're going to get into the Wasp.
So the interesting thing about this movie, of all the MCU movies, this was a total throwaway.
Yeah.
Because this whole movie is only exists for one scene, and it is the first post-credit scene.
First post-credit scene.
That's the whole reason for that movie.
The entire movie is just to show you that Scott is trapped,
Yes.
and all the rest of his crew are gone.
Yes.
And that's it. That's the entirety of what this movie is for.
Because, spoilers, the fact that he's trapped in the quantum realm is what helps Endgame happen.
Yeah.
And so that's but like the whole movie itself is like,
I do like,
it's okay.
At the time I laughed at it, and now I kind of look at it and say, at least you know where you're actually standing.
Yes.
I think the move to have the MCU proper be saved because of a rat. The MCU proper is saved because of a rat. I think that's appropriate for this level of content.
But then also, I guess because I didn't remember this movie, all of the negatives I gave Quantumania about really going hard on the removing the helmets every time you do anything, this movie dove deep into that. Anytime they went from shrunk to big, they would take their helmets off.
This is what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying. In the first one, going back a few episodes, I was complaining about how in the Deadpool and Wolverine trailer, you have an Ant-Man helmet. And what is a giant Ant-Man helmet? What do I do with this? This doesn't make any sense because Giant Man doesn't have a helmet. Only Ant-Man has a helmet because he needs it to communicate with ants. So a Giant Man helmet, by its nature, usually would be ineffective and stupid. Except in the MCU, they set up this idea where you have to have this enclosed suit because if you're exposed to the Pym particles in any way, they can dramatically change your brain chemistry, which they never actually use for anything.
Yeah.
Even though that could have been the perfect lead up to the actual Yellow Jacket being Hank Pym and not Daryl Strong or whatever the fuck his name is. Darren Cross.
Darren Cross, there you go.
I gotta show that I do know the name. I gotta know that I have to show that I know the name by saying the wrong name and then saying the right name.
We know the name. We just don't give a shit.
I don't care. Here's my thing. I don't care.
Hey, you can just call him MODOK now.
Right? But even then, I'm still like, but you're not MODOK.
You're not MODOK.
You're not MODOK. You keep on parading around like you're different characters and you're none of them. You're just like, I'm Yellow Jacket. You're not Yellow Jacket.
Not Yellow Jacket.
I'm MODOK. You're really not.
Yeah,
I cannot emphasize
not even
enough.
a little bit.
Anyway, if you're going to establish this idea that you have to be in this encased system, this enclosed system, in order to use the Pym particles, why can Scott just shrink in between sizes without it being an issue? Why is he the size of a 6-year-old now? Why is this a thing?
That was weird.
What's going on?
Like, that's Marvel saying, oh, you know what would be funny?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that doesn't fit anything.
It doesn't make any sense within the context of the canon.
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Because it's funny.
Yeah.
They can say, oh, do you want a juice box? When he gets in the car, you can get Michael Douglas, Oscar winner Michael Douglas, to say stupid lines like, do you want a juice box and fruit snacks? And him say, oh, do you have them?
Yeah.
It was so bad.
It's
the thing that really pissed me off about this movie, though.
The building shrinking into a suitcase, even though it's an entire building
full
of
just
presumably
dumb.
people.
That didn't make me mad. That was just dumb.
That just makes me
there was no people in the building.
Well, then why do you have an entire building,
I
Pym,
don't understand
in San Francisco? Why do you have an entire building in San Francisco, Pym?
I don't understand that. You have Lawrence Fishburne as Goliath.
Which I like him as Bill Foster until the turn. Where it's like it turns out he's the reason Ghost is the way that she is.
Yes.
And I'm like, what the fuck is this shit?
But you have a situation where it's like, okay, so you were saying this guy used to be Goliath.
Yeah.
He used to grow.
Yeah.
He is jealous of the fact that the new technology, Scott can grow much bigger than he ever did. At the end, you have a situation where they're trying to evade the police. And what do? They just grow an empty suit and let it collapse on itself, where it's like, this was your opportunity to put Lawrence Fishburne in the fucking suit and have Goliath be fucking Goliath. And I'm like, why would you not do that?
Also, if you're going to retcon it so that Goliath was around back in the 80s, which I like in concept, then why the fuck don't Rhodey and Iron Man know what Goliath is when he becomes Giant Man at the airport? They should know something. Goliath worked for S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah.
Even if Tony doesn't know, Rhodey should know something.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I get the U.S. government not trusting Iron Man with actual secrets, but Rhodey? You're not going to trust Rhodey with these kind of things?
But what you were just saying, in Avengers, Tony Stark hacked into all of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s files. And you telling me won't notice that there was a guy that grew to 35 feet or whatever Bill Foster said he grew to?
And then you have Black Widow releases all of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s files online.
Yeah.
And still, no one
knows.
No one thinks about this.
No one fucking knows.
And it's just like, what the fuck? This is always my issue with the MCU, is that they keep on playing it like people don't know superheroes exist. You can't. Your canon dictates that it can't be played that people don't know about superheroes. That's ridiculous and asinine. Captain America's been around since the fucking 1940s, and God willing, he has a statue at Liberty Island. Yeah. So, like, what the fuck are we doing, guys?
And maybe you can get away with saying no one knows Ant-Man or the Wasp ever existed because they're tiny.
Well, and they're secret agents.
And they're secret agents.
Goliath
is fucking 35 feet tall.
That's his whole thing.
He's fucking Godzilla.
What are you talking about? Nobody saw him. Nobody noticed him ever.
I don't get that.
I
really like that. That bothered me so much. It's like, because you're right. It's like I love the casting.
Yeah,
Lawrence
it's great
Fishburne
casting.
was perfect.
I love the moment when he and Scott are talking about notes.
Yes.
When they go and meet him for the first time. And I'm like, Bill Foster, fucking Bill Foster. Because I'm sitting here like, I sat through all of Civil War, not a mention of Bill Foster. All right? Now, we didn't have Mechanathor and all these other... Like, okay, fine. We don't need Bill Foster to die here for a bunch of different reasons. But, like, there's no mention of him.
Nope.
Anybody who doesn't know, Bill Foster is an enormous element of Civil War. He's arguably one of... no pun intended, the biggest things that happens in Civil War is the death of Bill Foster. No mentions, nothing, gone, not even on the table. It's like, what the fuck?
Well, we know they fucked up Civil War so bad. So, I mean, that's a given.
That's true.
That's an absolute given.
All the canon is gone.
Yeah.
All the canon is gone, and
destroyed.
it just makes me crazy.
But it's like, and this is something we've also talked about with the MCU, is missed opportunities to where they do introduce a character that you're like, and then they completely blow it. Yeah. And you're like...
Or they introduce...
even Ghost.
I was about to say.
I didn't... Now, here's the thing. The way it started, I felt, okay, maybe this is going somewhere good, and then it just didn't.
Well, and, like, my thing is... Ghost presents something that I've wanted in a long time. You take a superhero and a supervillain. They do not have the same power sets. So now you have two different power sets fighting each other. How do those power sets play off each other? Because that's what we actually want when we come to superhero stuff. We don't want Iron Man to be fighting various versions of Iron Man. That's fucking boring and stupid.
We don't want Whiplash in an Iron Man suit.
What we want is two guys with extremely different power sets fighting so that there's a level of, I have to come up with a solution. I have to think on the fly. I've been watching Batman Beyond. One of the things that they do great is their use of civilians. And the way that civilians play a role within the body of that show. None of that shows up in the MCU on a regular, informative basis.
Yes.
And then when we do get it here with Ghost, it's okay, but it's Scott, so it's not going to be like these amazing fight scenes. And you still have Hope. I'm still angry that it's not Jan, but fine. You have Hope. At least there's a Wasp. She doesn't play an actual role in any of the fight scenes in a meaningful way, even though she's shown to be a better fighter than Scott.
1,000 times.
And so you just have
the scene where she's fighting Walter Goggins' men when he's first introduced. She's like Captain America the way she's fighting them.
I'm sitting here like, where has this been? Because this is the Wasp that I know, is this Wasp that is funny and charming and incredibly effective in combat because nobody expects anything out of her. And so we get there, we almost get there with Hope, but she doesn't actually have anything meaningful in the entire movie, which they do again in Quantumania, where again, she has nothing meaningful to do in the entire movie. Even though this movie's called Ant-Man and the Wasp. Yeah. It's still mostly Ant-Man and then also kind of the Wasp. But then on top of everything else, you give Jan, the real Jan, quote-unquote real Jan, these bullshit quantum powers, and she heals Ghost so that Ghost doesn't have her powers anymore.
Stupid.
And I'm just like, what the fuck is this? Yeah. What the fuck is this? What are we doing?
I'm going to touch your head with my glowy fingers and everything.
What is this quantum power that she has? What is this bullshit garbage? Like, I've seen a lot of Deus Ex Machinas in my life. Invincible Season 2 had some world-class Deus Ex Machinas.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is some bullshit. This is garbage.
And then you're taking, once again, like Marvel likes to do. Now, they didn't kill the villain in this movie.
No, but they removed her from any possibility of being a factor moving forward.
I mean, right now she's just another Black Widow.
And it's not even like Ghost in the comics where it's a suit, where the power comes from the suit. Yes. she had her power come from the quantum realm.
Yeah, the suit was used to control the power.
And
which,
it's just like, what is this bullshit? So you can't even recreate it and have Ghost 2 or something later on. Yeah. Now Ghost just doesn't exist in this universe. Yeah. And it's like, what the fuck are we doing?
Because there's two things Marvel does not know how to handle. Women or villains. They fuck them both up.
And when you have a woman villain,
oh my god,
Lord help you.
That's just a nightmare.
I don't know what to do.
So that was that. We're gonna move on to Endgame next with my son, and I'm not looking forward to it.
Good luck.
I'm cringing right now. I can honestly right now thinking to Endgame, the only scene that I still like is when Bruce Banner and the Ancient One have their little conversation. I really enjoyed that scene. That's the only thing I have a positive memory of the whole movie.
I like the last fight and everything else about that movie. I'm like, so you decided to pitch for nostalgia?
Yeah.
You're just going to do a let's walk down memory lane of the Marvel Universe? But that's your entire plan?
That's their entire plan. And like that, even that last fight, it was just too much.
See, I like it because it should have been that much. It needed to be that much. It needed to be that far over the top. After everything that's happened and after all these movies, it needed to be a 40-minute fight sequence that shows everybody getting their hands on the ball.
That's true.
So I'm happy with that. And honestly, that's the moment where, like, if you just stop watching Infinity War at the end and then you skip right to the fight, I feel like that might be the meta for watching the two movies. Is just fully skip all of Endgame until you get to the fight.
They would never have had that line, "That's America's ass." So just remember, that is the whole movie for some executives.
You know,
one executive was like, "Oh my god, it's the funniest line in the movie."
I think that's actually true because Lego made an Avengers set and it comes with two Captain Americas, so you can have Captain America looking at Captain America's ass. And I'm just like, why? But why? There's so many other characters that I would rather have as a minifigure than two Captain Americas. So I can have one Captain America looking at the other Captain America's ass.
You just gave me a brain in here.
What's the point of this exactly? Like when the Daily Bugle didn't come with a Mary Jane Watson, I was like, okay, you know, it's weird that it comes with Blade, but it's like not the weirdest thing ever. I've seen weirder. This seems unnecessary to have two of the exact same figure, the exact same one. I don't know about that one.
Now is the hurtful time.
Buckle in, kids.
So we're going to move on to the first two episodes of this new season of Doctor Who.
New Who.
A little bit of a rough start with the whole special Christmas episode, The Church on Ruby Road. A lot of mixed feelings about that.
Now, this is not the Toy Maker episode, right? This is a different, the Game Master, whatever that one.
Yeah, no, that was the final episode with Tennant,
So there's actually a full Christmas special after that.
Yeah, the Church on Ruby Road is where you get the full introduction to the new Doctor by himself without David Tennant there. You get the backstory of his companion, who is Ruby Sunday, I believe is her last name, which I still have a hard time believing that's her last name, but Ruby.
That's Sunday. Is this James Bond?
It's dumb.
Pussy galore.
So there was a lot of negatives. I'm not going to get into the Church of Ruby Road because that was the Christmas episode. I'm going to just go on to the first official two. So it started with a whimper.
Okay.
First episode is called Space Babies.
Oh, good.
And they literally get to this space station that there are babies in like kind of like remember WALL-E, the humans that are in like the chairs?
Yeah.
These are like babies in chairs like that, and so their thoughts, like they can actually speak because they're not aging.
Oh.
And at first there's like no adults, and long story short, it gets to the point where the thing they have to solve to save the babies and the station is there is a mucus monster that's grown in the same way the babies were grown, and the babies think it's the boogeyman. And the Doctor and Ruby have to stop this mucus monster.
This feels belittling. I'm not gonna lie.
This is a new trend that was started in this episode, and it goes into the next one too. The Doctor has been around now for 60 fucking years. Mm-hmm. So if I have no problem if you change their appearance, you change their sex.
Yeah.
Don't give a shit.
Yeah.
The Doctor, whenever the Doctor is met, a new creature, being that he's never seen before, he's curious.
He's thrilled.
the Doctor in these two first episodes has run for both of them. And I'm like, as soon as he ran from the Mucus Monster, I'm like, what the fuck is he doing?
Did he not, like, study it at all?
And here's the thing, though. He mentions the fact that he found it odd. In the second episode, he mentions the fact that he found it odd that he ran from the monster in the first one. And what does he do to fix it? He runs from the monster in the second one. But it's like, I'm watching this and it's like, okay, this is my problem. First off, the story sucked. Like, it was
It's pretty bad.
It was a dumb fucking story.
As far as synopsis goes, that's pretty bad.
Yeah. It's like,
it's hard to have an elevator pitch where that sounds good.
no, it was really fucking stupid. But then you have this new Doctor, which his initial introduction went well when you introduced him with David Tennant, even though a lot of people were pissed that they got split and it's two doctors.
I didn't mind that. That was fine.
No, and he was super charming and debonair and all that. I'm like, okay,
yeah,
I'm on board with this.
If anything, that's a critique on the fact that we've gone soft on David Tennant for giving him a happy ending.
Yes.
Doctor Who doesn't get a happy ending.
He never gets a happy. And that is, once again, that's the thing I'm having a hard time with. And you have Russell T Davies, who everyone, including me, was like, oh, this is the guy that resurrected Doctor Who with Christopher Eccleston, and I can't wait to see what he's going to do. He's completely changing this character. It's like saying Wolverine doesn't have claws, he has a tail that's sharp at the end now. It's like, no, that's not... Like, you got to be more creative. If, like, they've been able to do it, where the Doctors are quirky in different ways. Even Jodie Whittaker, she still didn't run.
No.
But she was completely different in a lot of ways, and she didn't run from the fucking bad guys, because that's not who the Doctor is. The Doctor has been alive for so fucking long and seen so many things that they are not afraid of anything.
Well, and like the reason they run is because it's a tactical reason. It's not out of fear. It's they look at the situation if they ever run and they say, well, I can't do anything here, and if we stay, my companions are going to die.
And that's
so
the main
I
thing
have
right
to go.
there.
I have
That's
to take my
usually
companions
why
and
they
get them out
run.
of here.
But like in this one, he's running ahead of the companion.
No, you run with the companion.
And it's like, what are you fucking doing?
No, you run. You hold hands and you run together. We know this.
So like this, like it really pissed me off.
Yeah, well,
like,
I guess
I
so.
was fucking pissed.
I was about to say, because this sounds to me like my complaints, not to take it here, about Homecoming. You have a Spider-Man story without any web swinging and without spider sense. Why is this called a Spider-Man story? This is clearly just a pastiche on Spider-Man.
There was a lot of... I'm going to say this right now. This new series of Doctor Who, my wife has agreed with me on this. Everyone who had any issues with Peter Capaldi's Doctor is going to think a lot different about his episodes now, because now they're going to be like, oh, fuck, that was the last, like, true Doctor, because even the Jodie Whittaker, which once again was not her fault, it was a terrible showrunner, they got away from what made the Doctor in the first season, and then they tried to bring it back, but it was a little too late. It's like Sonic Screwdriver. When he had Sonic sunglasses in that one season, makes me so angry. Was dumb, but now it's like a flat Sonic
spanner
disc or something. It's like a round, flat, it almost looks like a seashell that's Sonic, and it's like,
this is bullshit.
It's like it's been a screwdriver for 60 years.
Does
the
it
one
unlock
time
deadbolts?
They went, and there was a story reason why it was sunglasses with Capaldi, and then it went back to a screwdriver.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's a fucking screw. You know, it's like there's certain things like you're saying with the web swinging. You don't. Jodie Whittaker had a fucking screwdriver. It was badass.
Yeah, it was a great one.
Her fucking
with the big crystal in it and everything.
Dude,
that was so
fucking
cool.
Awesome.
That was fucking rad. You don't step on Superman's cape.
No.
You don't step on Superman's cape.
And so Space Babies rolled into a frustrating episode for me. So it's called The Devil's Cord, which was the second episode.
Yep.
The villain in this is a character called the Maestro.
Okay.
And the Maestro, you find out, is the toy maker's child.
Of Neil Patrick Harris.
Of Neil Patrick Harris' child. So you find that out at the end. So it's like, okay. Jinx Monsoon, who was on RuPaul's Drag Race, plays the villain. Now, here's the thing on this. She fucking killed it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Like, I would watch anything she's in because she was fucking spectacular. But what they gave her to do was fucking terrible.
This is always the thing.
they had her like what she did, and it is kind of it has like a musical tone to it because the Doctor and Ruby, the whole point of the story is they want to go back to when the Beatles were writing their first album.
Okay.
So they go to Abbey Road or not, whatever the first studio was, the EMI recording studios that they wrote their first album. They go there, and early in the show, but prior to them going, the maestro steals music from the world,
like the concept of music,
like music, just in general.
Okay.
And so when the Doctor and Ruby go there are the Beatles and there's other artists, and they can't sing, and they can't write. They just have terrible, they can't do anything. And so it's kind of interesting, but like the maestro, the whole character was kind of dumb. Mm-hmm. Like the maestro's whole attack is like singing these physical music bars that come out and wrap around people and like contain them, and it was like kind of dumb, and she trapped people in musical instruments.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm saying, like, if you watch it, you're going to say, holy shit, this actor killed it, but fuck, they killed the worst goddamn script.
Yeah.
And then of course it ends with them defeating the maestro in kind of a chintzy way. It's like they send supposedly the piano from EMI Studios that the Beatles wrote their first album on is a special piano, and it has special powers, and there's certain chords that if you play it, it sends the maestro back into like this nether world where she came from.
Now.
And so there's a big battle at the end, and the Doctor and Ruby are tied up, and the maestro shoots the piano into the hallway. And who's walking down the hallway? Paul McCartney and John Lennon. And they, all of a sudden, they have this vision of this music, and they play the music to destroy the maestro.
Yeah.
And you're like, fuck my brain right now.
We were talking about Deus Ex Machina. This is just like this is like the Terminator, beginning of Terminator, where it's just fleets of robots as Deus Ex. That's pretty bad. And I get it. Doctor Who plots can get real crazy, right? I've seen Doctor Who plots get real crazy, but like there's still something that ties them down.
Yes.
And I feel like this is just for jokes. This is just kind of done for the ridiculousness of it.
And then it ends with a huge musical number with the Doctor and Ruby, and they're getting everyone involved, and they're having this big song, which was all right. You know, the Doctor, I can't remember his name, the new Doctor. He's got a great voice.
Yeah.
And even Ruby, great voice. So like they were singing, it was fine. But okay, so the two big things I have a problem with this episode, other than just a shitty written episode, like it was truly shittily written, they once again completely slapped you in the face with the pronoun thing.
Okay.
Like, once again, like I've said before, I don't care that it's a drag queen. I don't care about any of that stuff. But when you get overly preachy, and it's like when the maestro is first getting like introduced, the guy that she steals the music from, he's like, oh, and I think he called her, like, what are you? And she's like, thee, them, they, and, like, made a big deal of saying it. And it's like, you didn't have to do that.
When you stop the show, when you bring the show to a screeching halt,
yes,
so we can talk about someone's pronouns, that's not an effective way to have that as a conversation.
And it's like, you have written in, and you cast the right person for this role, and you've written in a character that is played by a drag queen, and you did it, you had an opportunity, because once again, they picked the perfect person, and then they not only wrote it shittily, but then did, like, really nailed you in the face right away, because it's in the first, like, 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude.
Because that was my issue with the Christmas special. Not the Christmas special. The
last
Tennant special.
That was both of our issues.
Was just that first episode with the Meek or whatever it was.
Yes.
Where they fully come to a complete stop so they can talk about the Meek's gender. And I'm like, I just feel like we're getting out of what we should be doing.
And this is the same thing with that, because, like, our problem was the first half of that episode, you had a transgender person, but you didn't mention anything about Like, you didn't make a big deal of it. You made it seem like it was a normal thing, which it is.
You had characters speaking about it privately.
Yes.
With how they felt about it.
Yes.
But you didn't have this whole thing where everybody needs to come to a halt and have a whole conversation. Everybody go around the circle, say what your pronouns are, we'll all have a conversation. I don't have a problem with that as a concept. I have a problem with how you address that in a story.
Yes.
Because the way that you address that in the story, the idea is to have it be as natural as possible. You don't want this to be this big sore thumb that sticks out.
Yes.
Right? You want this to be natural. It's like having African-American men win Oscars.
Yes.
Or having mixed race couples on film. You don't want it to be the basis of the whole film.
Yes.
You don't even want anybody to bring attention to it. You just want it to be there and have no one talk about it because then it's been normalized. Once you get there, then it's been normalized.
And then you fucked it up like you did in this episode. You fucked it up in that first episode by having an actor that in real life is referred to as she. She wants to be called a she.
Yeah.
She is referred to as she for the entire fucking episode, and then you say at the end, well, the reason why, and it would have been genius if they would have done this the whole episode, is that the reason why she is the way she is because she's part doctor, and the doctor's non-binary, and she's not, and they refer to her as non-binary. It's like, well, if she's non-binary, you wouldn't have called her she throughout the whole fucking episode. Yeah. And that's the part that drove me nuts. And with this one, you have an alien. It's not a humanoid, so it shouldn't be he, she.
Yeah.
Not make a big deal of it. You don't even have to say she or he. It's just they.
Yeah.
But why do you need to say it and make it a thing?
Yeah.
When you just, like, if he would have just been said, yeah, they, instead of saying, oh, they, them, and, like, having it be a stop, like you're saying, stop the episode thing.
Yeah.
You gotta weave it more natural because it is a natural thing that happens now. It's just the way the world is now, which is great. But make it feel natural. Don't make it feel like you have to force it in.
The more you draw attention to it,
exactly,
the more it looks like you're doing this against your will and as a statement, not as we're just doing this because it's the right thing to do.
Yes.
We're doing this because we're morally right. And it's like, that's not what you should be doing this for. You should be doing this for because it's the natural, normal thing to do is to address this person as an individual and just listen to what they want to be heard as and address it that way.
This is going to be an old callback. The Jeffersons TV show. And I thought about this after that time we talked about that episode. It's Lenny Kravitz's mom? I don't know if it's his dad too, but George Jefferson's neighbors was a black man and a white woman. They never made a deal of it.
Yeah.
And it was like, that was in the fucking 60s? Or it was in the 70s, I think. But it's like, back then, that was, I think it was still illegal in some states, but they just did it. And they said, this should be normal.
Yeah.
So we're not going to say anything. It's just normal.
Yeah. Well, and like I look at
do that.
I look at Mystery Men where you have William H. Macy and he has a African American wife. It's not a part of the plot. It's not something that comes back into anything. They just cast an African American woman to play his wife. And it's not a big deal and it's not part of anything. It's just a thing. It's just a choice that you made that doesn't mean anything. It's not for making a stance or any of these other things. It's just there because it's the right thing to do.
Yes.
And also I don't care for the fact that you keep on introducing non-binary characters as villains. Not a huge fan. No. Not a great look. I'm going to just tell you right now, you're about 3 degrees away from Buffalo Bill in Silence of the Lambs. Yeah. So, like, maybe don't.
What drives me nuts about, and this is Russell T. Davies, he talked about it, this is his message. It's like, your message should be, this is a normal, natural thing, and it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Not, I need everyone, no matter how mad it's going to make you, I'm going to jam it in your face. It's like, no, dude. You just make it what it is, which is a natural, normal thing, and then people won't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Like, and that's the thing that drove me nuts. And my wife even, we looked at each other, we're like, fuck.
If you ever act like it's not natural, then people won't see it as natural.
Yes.
So you have to have it be natural. It's like everything else in Doctor Who. When you tell me that this character stole the concept of music from the world, that doesn't faze me because that sounds like Doctor Who.
Yes.
It's the exact same thing. You just have to approach it with the confidence and knowledge of being like, we're not going to address it. It's not a big enough deal and it's not part of the message that we're saying. We're just having this character here and they're non-binary and that's just going to be part of the story. Nobody has to acknowledge it. It doesn't have to be a whole thing.
Yeah.
Just have it be part of the story so it can be normalized within culture.
And once again, that took away a little bit in the beginning from what the shining part of this whole episode was Jinx Monsoon.
Yeah.
But you kind of sullied it at first by having that, and it's like, so if any takeaway, don't watch Space Babies. It is fucking terrible.
It sounded bad. I'm not going to lie to you.
It is atrocious. It's the epitome of a throwaway episode.
Yeah.
Watch The Devil's Cord. Costumes are great.
Okay, that's
because
good.
they're very 60s costumes.
Okay.
Great costumes. And Jinx Monsoon's performance with a bad writing is fantastic. I highly recommend it for that, but understand that it is not a good representation of Doctor Who.
Here's my question for both, and this has nothing to do with gender. This is just about the show itself. This sounds like it's CGI heavy between the babies and some of the powers that the Maestro has. How is the effects? Because I don't mind cheesy effects in Doctor Who. I look at the Daleks, I'm like, this is great. But if it's bad, then we have to have a conversation.
The Space Babies isn't terrible. It's literally just babies. And they do the
It's not CGI babies?
No, it's not CGI babies.
Okay.
And they do the, look who's talking, moving the bottom mouth so it looks like they're talking.
Okay.
And then I think there's a mix, like a 50-50 with the mucus monster. It's really mostly shown in the dark, so it's not overly noticeable.
Okay.
It's just a stupid fucking monster. And
the entire concept is really dumb.
The Maestro stuff is like classic tongue-in-cheek CGI Doctor Who. So that's not a big deal.
Okay.
And then it's mostly practical other than that. But my big problem with everything is just they're changing who the Doctor...
Yeah.
Down to the Doctor's core. Because regardless of if the Doctor changes gender, changes sex, or not just changes anything, it's still the same person.
The fundamentals
of the Doctor is still the same, and it will always be the same, and they're getting away from that. Once again, I don't know if they're going to use the excuse of, well, when the Doctor split, the new Doctor, all of that old stuff is with David Tennant, and this is just a different thing.
That's dumb.
It's dumb, but at least,
then I don't want to watch the show.
Have a scene. No, but at least have a scene explaining that.
Yeah, no, I agree. No, my thing is, I look at Tennant and I look at Smith. Those are my two Doctors, right? And these two are fundamentally the same with some different knobs pulled on each, right? So David Tennant is a little more rude and a little more crass about things. He has a little bit less of patience. He's a little bit more temper heavy. Matt Smith is kind of more idealistic and boyish in his view. Yeah. And he just kind of wants to go along with everything. But fundamentally, if you show each of them a void ship, they would both have the exact same reaction to a void ship.
Yeah.
Of just oh, how do
I get in there and see what's
inside?
That?
Why is it here? Yeah. What's going on? The idea that the Doctor would ever run away from a problem when someone else is in danger is antithetical to the entirety of the Doctor.
Yes, I agree. And that's my biggest my biggest problem, my biggest concern.
Yeah.
So the next episode, which came out Friday, which was Boom, I have not watched yet. Hopeful, because I've heard good things, because it is written by Stephen Moffat and not Russell T Davies, and Stephen Moffat was the showrunner for both Matt Smith and Peter Capaldi. Mm-hmm. And regardless of the problems people have with Capaldi, I still loved Capaldi, and he still is my favorite episode. He's not my favorite Doctor, that's Matt Smith. But he has my favorite episode ever.
The Ballad of River Song.
The Husbands of River Song.
Yes.
That is, in my opinion, by far the greatest Doctor Who episode ever, because you can watch it not knowing really anything about Doctor Who and everything. It's just so entertaining.
Yeah.
But even that, there's a lot of moments with his Doctor with great speeches and great villains. And that's the thing that I think is already kind of shitty. Even going to the toy maker, and I don't blame the toy maker, because they just underutilized the toy maker. They did not make it.
They didn't seem to know how to use them.
No, I mean, because you have a 3-story arc and you show him in the third story.
In the very last story.
Dude, he should be in the.
He should be a part of this whole thing.
So far the villains, and this is what surprises me, is that was the big criticism for Jodie Whittaker's, is that the villains sucked. And they went away from the classics, and it's fine. If you don't want to do the classics, you don't need to. But Stephen Moffat created the Weeping Angels and the Silence, and it's fucking amazing bad guys.
And they fit into the canon.
Yeah.
Like, they don't feel like they're out of place. I always felt like the Tooth Monster from Jodie Whittaker's whole season.
Oh, God.
I was like, I don't know if this fits, and I don't like looking at him. I don't know. This is fine. I just feel like it doesn't fit here.
Yeah, no.
But, like, that's the thing, is that it has to fit the canon.
Yes.
At the end of the day, it has to fit the canon. Like, I didn't love... you say Moffat did some of the best Doctor Who, and I kind of like shrug because I didn't love the third season of Matt Smith, and I didn't like almost any of Capaldi. But like at the same time, like you can still look at, as much as I didn't like Dinosaurs in Space, you can still look at that and be kind of like, okay, but it still has the same kind of flair and feel as other Doctor Who episodes. It's a little bogged down in some other stuff. There's some weird stuff going on. The stuff with Cleopatra, I'm like, I don't fucking know what to do with this.
But that's a great... The Dinosaurs in Space gave us the classic Doctor Who reaction to Dinosaurs in Space, which is him giddy as a fucking child going, oh my God, it's Dinosaurs in Space!
Well, and like you look at the other episode that I love from that season, because again, I only really like the first half of that season where we introduce Clara. Because I don't mind Clara.
Yeah, I don't mind Clara.
But they never do anything interesting with her. To me anyway. I felt like they didn't necessarily land anything with her that was important. I think the best episode was where Capaldi is trapped in the TARDIS, and she has to pretend to be the Doctor and kind of give instruction and get instruction from the Doctor in the TARDIS, but he can't get out of the TARDIS, so she's running the show. I was like, okay,
was that when it was shrunk?
Then when it shrunk. I like that episode. I like that episode a lot. And I like Clara as a character. But I just felt like there were a lot of moments that didn't line up, and a lot of that was just because Clara's whole storyline is just concocted, right? Like, there's just so many moments where, like, but why was she in a Dalek? Don't worry about it. But she's like a teacher, right? But why was she in a Dalek? What happened to Souffle Girl? I'm so confused. I can't get off Souffle Girl, and you want me to, but I can't. I just can't. I need answers on Souffle Girl. So, like... that was always one of the things that caught me, right? And also the deep sadness of Matt Smith after the Ponds leave was just like, I can't hang out with you when you're like this, man. I want to be supportive, but I can't do it, dude. And I still look at that episode where all the little boxes show up on Earth and nobody knows what they're for. And Matt Smith, Doctor Who, just has to hang around for a week, and he's so bored waiting to find out what's up with these boxes. And meanwhile, I'm like, but this is fascinating. This is so interesting.
See, the funny thing, my favorite thing about Clara was every interaction she had with Strax, the Centauran, and he referred to as boy. Yeah. That killed me every time. Hey, boy. I'm not a boy, I'm a girl. Like, every time it murdered me.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is like, I miss Centaurans. I miss... Daleks, I miss Cybermen, I miss these, it's like it's like making a Spider-Man movie without the Green Goblin.
Yeah.
It's like, no, dude, you gotta...
They've done that a few times, but if your villain in the Spider-Man movie was Speed Demon, and you didn't do it well, then I would be like, and you chose Speed Demon, why? So you had this whole pantheon. Shocker would have been better than Speed Demon. Big Wheel. Why are we doing Big Wheel?
Yeah.
Can someone explain this to me? Because I feel like I'm just not getting it.
I don't know. So that's where I am with Doctor Who. I'm hopeful for this next episode. I'm not going to hold my breath because so far in these first 3 with the new Doctor, it's just... It's like you can't have a property that's 60 years old and change it this much.
Yeah.
Because once again, I know they're trying to get a new fan base, but it's once again with the Marvel and how we are with comic books and how they're doing the MCU now. It's like you're only here because of your old fan base, though. Well, so you need to give them some resemblance of what they fell in love with. Instead of just having the TARDIS is not enough for me.
Well, like you look at, let's take another British property that's been around forever and had multiple people in its role, James Bond.
James Bond, yes.
You look at James Bond, and if James Bond went in and had a Heineken and it wasn't shaken or stirred, oh wait, that did happen, and people lost their minds, but it wouldn't be that big a deal. If you had James Bond unable to kill someone because of some fear or issue or deep internal strife or something, you'd be like, but what about, all this? I feel like this is disingenuous to the last 60 years of content that we've been given.
Yeah.
So you can't just turn on a dime. And it sounds like they're lining it up to be like this big twist later on of like, why is the Doctor scared? We're going to find out. But like, you got to lay down better breadcrumbs than that.
Yeah.
And that's a really big twist. So you better pull that off, because that's not great.
That's not great. And I like your analogy with James Bond, because they did it right in, what's the final one? A Good Day to Die?
No Time to Die.
No Time to Die. Where James Bond, the character traits, he's a flawed individual.
Oh,
he's, no matter what time frame it's in, he's going to be a womanizer, he's going to kill people. All of that's got to be there. But then you show him in this movie where he does actually have a conscience and shows emotion. And that's kind of what Daniel Craig's whole run did, which helped humanize the character a lot more.
The whole of Daniel Craig's run is him becoming a human.
Yeah.
He starts out as this inhuman person who kills first and asks questions later.
Yes.
And then he meets Ava Green, and he slowly starts to be like, oh, maybe I do have feelings. And then she dies, and he goes on this whole rampage, and then he meets... I can't remember the name of her character, but the woman in No Time to Die.
Leia Saido.
Yeah. So you have, when she's introduced with her...
Can I show you how douchey this is, though? She truly is the number 2 person in that movie. Ana de Armas is number 2 on the billing on IMDb, even though she's in it for 3 minutes.
They have been saying that they're going to make a Paloma. They're going to make a Paloma film for years now.
I don't think
years now they've been saying that they're going to do that. It's never going to happen.
I think Ghosted
it's going to happen.
Film.
It's going to happen when Silver and Black and the Aunt May movie where she's a secret spy come out.
Yeah.
When those movies come out, we will get Paloma. Until then, it's never going to happen.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I like Paloma in that movie. I think she's really great. Charming. She's a breath of fresh air with everything that's going on. She needs to be there longer. And it's not just like a sexiness factor. It's like a character factor. Yeah. I like having her as a character. I like kind of her like looking around and being like, oh, wait, I'm in the wrong place. I got to go do this. And like, I like that. I thought that was really charming. And yeah.
Well, and it's funny because her and Lashana Lynch, both beautiful women, but they did it properly to where, okay, they're beautiful, but they still kick serious fucking ass, and they don't need James Bond to save them.
No.
And it's like, oh, so that's how you write a proper female character. Yeah. Maybe the MCU should look at James Bond now, and maybe they can learn from that.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
It's not good when that's how bad it is with the MCU. How bad is it? It's so bad that you can look at James Bond for pointers on how to have well-written women characters. Yeah. That's how bad the MCU has gotten.
Which, it's funny, the best analogy I have for that is there was a John Oliver show where he's talking about the WWE.
Oh, yeah, I love that one.
And how awful they are, but he goes, they're below the NFL. If you're below the fucking NFL and how you treat your people, you know you're bad.
That's really
how
bad.
This is.
That's really bad, guys.
That is how this is. But so there's my Doctor Who rant. I'm excited for this 3rd episode because I'm hoping that it's a course correction, but
we'll see what happens.
I'll let you know next week.
I'm gonna try and go fishing for some Doctor Who. I do this with every Doctor. I give them like 5 episodes to kind of make their point and show me what their episodes are gonna be like. And Capaldi did not wow me. I liked Jodie Whittaker at first, but I just felt like there wasn't a through line, like a strong through line with the character and everything. I also, some of her companions felt like hangers-on, less like interesting, important characters.
See, like that's the thing is I cared more about the storyline of the grandfather and his grandson than I did Jodie Whittaker. So it's like, and they had set them up for a spinoff, which I don't think that's going to happen, like a Sarah Jane Chronicle type thing. Yeah, so who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows?